In the beginning, the Horned Rat created the Skaven, and he saw that they were vicious and treacherous and eating each other in dark corners. And he said,
Perfect, yes.
But the Skaven were lost, hunted by dwarves, burned by the Empire, eaten by anything bigger than them, which was literally everything. The Skaven needed a savior, not someone to die for their sins, obviously. They loved their sins. They needed someone who could make other people die for theirs.
And his name is
Deathmaster Snake.
So the Horned Rat sent his chosen one, a rat in a hood with a triple-pointed dagger, and frankly more charisma than the deity who created him. This is the campaign of Deathmaster Snitch, World Conquest, Legendary difficulty, in under 100 turns. Turn 1. The Horned Rat's first miracle was a save scum. We re-roll our starting Eshin Sorcerer until he comes up disciplined, +2 melee attack to the whole army, and a Lord recruitment pool produces a sneaky Plague Lord. The Horned Rat could have given Snitch a vision, or a holy relic, or some kind of prophecy. He gave him some stat boosts instead. Skaven theology is utilitarian after all. We ambush the starting army. The Eshin Sorcerer casts Magic Missile on whoever's clumped up. Slingers and mortars hold fire until enemies wander into range, and Snitch baits the survivors out of position and cleans them up. We use a fighting retreat to keep our front lines healthy. In the same turn, we take Village of the Moon and pick up a barrier item. The barrier goes on Snitch immediately. By the end of turn 1, Snitch has 3 equipped items, 2 of which he stole, and a quest reward. The Horned Rat is real, and he loves his Skaven Jesus. We use Shadowy Dealings to steal 5 food from the Dimmed Suns, plus a healthy chunk of XP for Snitch. Following one of the Skaven's 13 commandments, thou shalt not help others, we join wars that we have no intention of fighting for a tidy profit. We hire that sneaky Plague Lord at the end of the turn and aim him south to open a second warfront by turn 2. And we demolish a building to make room for hidden layers, because the early game is going to ride on recruiting assassin heroes. Turn 2. We attacked Jadewind Mountain with Snitch and took it. The settlement coughs up an armor item that more than doubles his armor stat. By turn 2, Snitch is fully kitted. Meanwhile, in the south, we use the sneaky Plague Lord to take Celestial Monastery. His combat loop runs a little differently. Plague Breath on clumped units, melee troops to lock enemy units in place, and Warp Grinder nukes to grind them down. 2 warfronts, 2 turns, and 4 settlements already. Truly, we are blessed with filth. We hired 2 assassins to join the Plague Lord stack and pad both armies with additional units. By next turn, we're going to have a negative income, which lines up with Skaven philosophy. The Horned Rat does not like a balanced budget. On the end turn, the Dimmed Suns attack Jadewind Mountain. The map is wide open and the enemy has 2 tough cavalry units in their stack. Thanks to Vanguard deployment, we hide our troops in the mountain pass at the back, force the engagement into a choke point, and grind them down with ranged attacks and spells. It's not very Skaven-like, but we take no losses on the main army. Turn 3. Clan Pestilence offers a clan contract, but we pass for now. Going negative relations with Pestilence will cost us -1 food per turn per army, and we'll soon have dozens of armies. The food math doesn't pencil. What we will do is extort other factions for cash. We join more wars for cash, and when they've had enough, we sue for peace for even more cash. Whenever someone's offering money on the diplomacy menu, Skaven Jesus is there. On the end turn, Cathay Rebels attack in the south. We pull the same choke point setup in the corner of the map and win with minimal losses. Turn 4. Snitch finishes a quest and pulls Whirl of Weeping Blades, a vortex nuke he can cast for free. No wins a magic cost. Just a tactical nuke the Horned Rat blesses his favorite child with. We attack Kunlun with Snitch. It's a standard siege. Snitch and the Eshin Sorcerer beat down the front gate. Slingers on hold fire to pick off only archers. Gutter runners go inside the walls to help Snitch clear melee troops, and we eventually grind the garrison until morale breaks. Then we do the Skaven thing. Sack Kunlun for the gold, throw a ton of food at it to attract vagrant and homeless rats, and then they rebuild it up to tier 5 for us, and we reap the rewards. You don't teach a Skaven to fish, no. You give them fish, and they will slave for you forever. Inside the new Kunlun, we built economic buildings, walls, 3 research unlocked buildings, the pits of the Packmasters, construction caverns, and a Taskmaster's platform. These are investments for the long game done on day 1 of the new ownership. With the Dimmed Suns faction destroyed, we focused our attention down south. The Plague Lord attacks Janshur and took it easily with few losses. Turn 5. We hire a 3rd Lord at Janshi to defend against pirate raids and prepare a counterattack east. We had plans to attack Nongchang, but the Jiangxi rebels got there first and besieged it. We declared war on them and attacked their army. Against the undead, we used the same choke point approach, but with new tools. Assassin heroes anchor the front line, mortars target enemy clumps, the Plague Lord drops Vermintide summons to plug any gaps, and Plague Breath softens what's left. The undead get put back into the ground. With the Jiangxi army cleared, we can attack Nongchang. Warp grinders take down the walls, our assassins and Vermintide front line shapes the enemy into a kill zone, and mortars do massive damage on the clumps. The settlement falls and the Cathay rebel faction is eliminated in the same turn. A pasture is built inside Nongchang for +4 food per turn, but don't ask what kind of meat it is.
Hey, where's the beef?
While the dust settles, we pay 3,000 gold for a dominating scheme, 5 turns of free food and discounted recruitments. The scheme costs less than what we get back in food alone. With the day's business taken care of, Snikch fights a quest battle against other Skaven. He clears 2 outer patrols, baits the main force with a feigned retreat, and smashes them when they overcommit. Late arriving Dark Elf reinforcements get funneled into a tight ramp and turned into porcupines. Snikch walks out with the Cloak of Shadows, more defense, better ambush chance, and reduced enemy defense for anyone close to him. Turn 6. We get paid to join a war against the Celestial Loyalists, then march Snikch to Mingju and take it easily. In the south, the Dead Flag pirates move to attack Jiangxi. Our new lord and his assassin heroes ambush them on the field. The pirates' suicide bombers detonate on contact, but our heroes time the kills so the explosions take out their own dogs and bats in the blast. If only the Horn Rat blessed the Skaven with such a unit. We mop up what's left for an easy win. A couple units pull off an Easter special and resurrect, so we put them down in what must have been the fastest Warhammer 3 battle in history. As my wife repeatedly says, only 4 seconds, are you kidding me? Snikch performs the Night Lord Say So, which takes him off the map for 2 turns and returns him with +1 scheme slots. The Bible has Jesus going into the wilderness for 40 days. Timu Jesus goes for 2 turns and can steal more often. On turn 7, we start farming rebellions. In most Warhammer campaigns, rebellions are a nuisance best dealt with by avoiding them, but the Skaven can turn them into free food, gold, XP, and items. We hire a temporary lord with high ambush success chance, attack the rebels until an ambush is procced, pull in the garrison troops, and auto-resolve for easy money. We finish off the turn by easily taking Chimai and Shiyama's Rest. By turn 8, Snikch returns to the city of Shugengan. The Assassin Lord force marches east to cut off the Blessed Dread at Beichai, and Shilong falls to our Plague Lord. And by turn 9, we get the great news. Blessed Dread are 1 turn short of taking Beichai, and we snag it right before they do. By turn 10, we take Bridge of Heaven, leaving the Jiangxi rebels with only 2 settlements left. Snikch finishes off the Celestial Loyalists by taking Wei Jin, but with Miaoying now our neighbor, preparations were made to go to war with her soon. More lords were recruited, more troops mustered, and an even bigger red number. With the engineering cavern finally constructed, we hire our first warlock engineer. He'll be helping the Empire expand underground. More on that soon. We end turn 10 by sending Snikch on yet another Night Lord Say So, unlocking 3 possible schemes and the option to steal much more than just food from our neighbors. But we need more time to build up our schemes. By turn 12, it was time to take out Miaoying. We joined a war against the northern provinces and attacked Pomei with Snikch, head-to-head with the Dragon Lady herself in the opening battle. After 12 minutes of smacking down her troops, Miaoying charged through the gates. She was so pissed and blinded by rage, she failed to spot the obvious bait set up for her. She quickly melted to a dozen slinger regiments. The rest of the defenders were methodically cleared out, leading to a landslide victory. Terracotta Graveyard also fell in the same turn, wiping out another full-stack army. Over the next few turns, settlements were falling left and right, and factions were being wiped off the map with ease. That is, until we took Li Chu from a minor Cathay faction. We ended turn 14 with high hopes, only to be met with a war declaration from Nakai the Wanderer, one of the scariest early game opponents in the Cathay region. He declared war with plans to take Li Chu immediately. Our only hope in this fight was to wipe out Nakai by himself, and delay the rest of his beasts long enough to pull off a fighting retreat. All ranged units were rushed to the right flank. Assassins pushed forward to tie up their infantry, and ranged units set to fall back. While Nakai is the strongest lord in the region, he's also the dumbest, and he charged in full force by himself and got cut down within seconds. Assassins focused down the dinosaurs, while the slingers stretched out their remaining infantry, leading to a massive rout for Nakai and a humiliating defeat to the rats. By the end of turn 14, we've got 3 different war fronts, so it'll be easier to track the progress from a mini-map. Miaoying and the northern provinces were eliminated by turn 16. We joined a war against her brother Zhao Ming and took his capital at Hanyu Port. Only a turn later, we ambushed Zhao Ming himself and smashed his army easily. By turn 20, we had cornered their final army at Chiang and wiped it out through a disgusting choke point covered by mortar fire. The Grand Cathay factions exist no more in the east. With only a handful of weak enemies holding lands to the south, all of Cathay will soon be united under the Horned Rat's Chosen One banner. There was just one problem. The Blessed Dread was still trying to beat me to take a fief down here. So I followed another commandment. Thou shalt murder allies if they ever try to take your So I equipped my assassins with items and murdered 2 of their heroes. Now they don't have enough strength to attack the settlement, and we easily take it from them next turn. At least they get to raid our lands for scraps. We'll pay them back for it later. By turn 31, all of the Cathay region was under control, and 2 more wars had already started in the west. There are a lot of sins tolerated by the Horned Rat, but gluttony isn't one of them. Since Greasus eats enough food by himself to feed hundreds of rats, we stabbed him to death and put a stop to his wastefulness. The celebration was cut short, however. Grimgor and his Ard boys launched a surprise war and began taking land in the north. If there's one thing the Horned Rat hates more than the obese, it's the illiterate, particularly the British.
Good morning, good.
So we rallied several armies to stop Grimgor in the north and counterattacked. We lost Titan's Notch, Yiti Peak, and Firemouth before finally stopping them at Blood Peak in an epic defense. We used their own stupidity against them, spawning clan rats under their clumped infantry and allowing them to nuke their own units. The rest were finished off by our elite mortar regiment, who tore through their ranks easily. Over the next few turns, we counterattacked and took back all the lost territory and began flooding their lands with spies and armies. Further west, more shenanigans were afoot. 3 schemes were saved up, and we used the Overthrow Layer ability to steal Naga Shazar from Clan Carrion. They were now homeless. With over 400 food in storage, we could spare 20 to reset the schemes back to 3 and steal another settlement. This time the crown jewel of Clan Moors, Carrick 8 Peaks. Nothing makes the Horned Rat more proud than achieving short victory via property theft, and all by turn 36. Over the next few turns, several more war fronts were opened up, including near our ally Clan Pestilence in the far southwest. If we're going to take everything by turn 100, we'll have to push from all over the world. The Chaos Dwarfs folded like a lawn chair, and by turn 49, we'd gobbled up enough territory to achieve the long campaign victory. Here's where my inner Skaven came out. Normally when you hit the long victory conditions, it sets off a 10-turn countdown timer for the end times crisis. Since the plan was to conquer the world, by turn 100, I moved the timer back to trigger after turn 100, meaning the crisis would no longer be my problem when it pops. The Warhammer vets watching this will probably have noticed a slight oversight. More on that later. On turn 53, another miracle took place. Items teleported across the entire world instantly. We could equip our heroes and lords with the best equipment before battle, then unequip them and move them somewhere else for another battle. I'm not sure why it took me 1,000 hours and a hairy rat god to figure this one out, but it was a game changer. I had accumulated a large stockpile of the best weapons and armor in the game, and now they would be used in every single battle moving forward. By turn 55, we declared war on Grimgor once again, stabbed him a few times, and gently wiped his faction off the map, eliminating one of the biggest threats. We celebrated by doing the most Skaven thing possible, stealing 2 of our allies' faction capitals. We stole Hell Pit in the north from Clan Mulder, who was losing ground against the Bone Rattlers. Then we stole Oxial from Clan Pestilence because it looked nice and I really wanted to have it. The main push in the center of the map was finally gaining some momentum. Warriors of Chaos, Chaos Dwarves, Greenskins, and more were falling to our Vermintide, but on turn 59 that all changed. The Dwarves emerged from all corners of the world to settle their grudges once and for all. But why the hell are they here in the first place? I had made sure the turn timer range was 100 turns, but failed to uncheck this little box right here, which triggers the timer on long campaign victory. Not only did I not prepare armies to counter them, but they stole several key settlements like Karazakarak, Karak Azorn, Karak Azul, etc. We've now got to retake these settlements and wipe out dozens of late game armies that we aren't currently prepared to take on. To make matters worse, they stole the last settlements from our ally clan Mulder, so we confederated them and forced them into military service, giving us control over Legendary Lord Throt the Unclean and legendary hero Gorich. With no time to waste, we set to work stealing the land back that we had rightfully stolen, starting with Karak Azul. Fortunately, we had just finished building an experimental army in the area and used them to great effect. 10 Hell Pit Abominations, several Packmasters to boost them, and a Plague Lord. We caught one of the dwarf armies at the edge of the map and massacred them. Hell Pit Abominations then flooded the enemy gates, and they quickly routed for a lopsided victory. With no army behind the front lines, we had to scrape together an emergency army to fight off a massive dwarf attack at Carrick-Azorn, using all available regiments of renown. In typical Warhammer fashion, we abandoned the walls and set up defenses in the back of the map. In typical Skaven fashion, we used suicide bombers to cause enemy-friendly fire as well as self-detonation. They paid the price for every step taken towards our walls. Once inside, we shredded everything that approached. Gyrocopters, infantry in a choke point, range units near the bridge, everything. The problem is, dwarves have incredible leadership and rarely rout. With only a skeleton crew left by the end of the fight, we barely managed to eke out a win. Although it was a struggle, the dwarves were pushed back on nearly all fronts and their damage was contained, except in the north where two factions popped out next to each other. Fortunately, they began to spread out by turn 62 and we had a chance to ambush them one by one, wiping 2 elite armies off the map with very few casualties sustained and even enough room to take a settlement nearby. Over the next few turns, we began stalling their offensive and even pushing them back to their capitals, and by turn 68, they were no more. The good news, most of the threat from the end times were dealt with. The bad news, it delayed the expansion by at least 10 turns in several parts of the map. It was time to kick it up a notch and speedrun the last 30 turns of the campaign. By turn 69, we had confederated Clan Moors, since he was down to his last 2 settlements and getting smashed. He'll be much more useful in our personal ranks. After dealing with the dwarves, we repositioned several armies to the south and prepared to launch a lightning strike war against the next biggest threat, the Bone Rattlers. We formally declared war on turn 72 and took 5 settlements in a single turn from them while being in position to strike more next turn. To add to the snowball, we stole Clan Scryer's capital, Skavenblight, which was already outfitted with top-tier buildings and landmarks. By turn 74, we confederated Clan Rictus, since we were his only neighbors now. 3 lords down and 2 more to go. This battle wasn't particularly important, but it was the longest of the campaign at 400 minutes long. Shout out to the rats for their patience. Domination campaign victory was achieved by turn 77, which means we were more than 50% of the way there, but had less than 25% of the time left to do it. By turn 79, we had stolen enough lands from Clan Pestilence to confederate them. Only a single Skaven faction remained, Clan Scryer. The final dwarf faction decided to have a reach-around conference at Zarkazil, but Snikch was there to break up the fun. Almost single-handedly, Snikch won battle after battle, making the cleanup on the next few turns trivial. The next big roadblock was Reichland, and while they couldn't match us in battle, they had enough power to slow the conquest down. So we did what Skaven do best: eat some food, stab important people in the back, and plunge their empire into anarchy. Now all their settlements were owned by weak rebels who could be steamrolled into oblivion. We had even saved this little ability for just this moment. Revitalizing Scheme recovers all heroes and lords back onto the map instantly, so Snikch could continue to push to the end quickly. The Reichland rebels didn't even manage to hold for 10 more turns, and their lands were turned into rats' nests. By turn 90, we had begun the invasion of Ulthuan, or as the Skaven call it, the Forbidden Donut, since all the land is virtually uninhabitable by rats. We didn't forget about our friends from earlier who we assassinated for trying to take lands ahead of us. The Blessed Dread were allowed to live until turn 91, not because of kindness, but because it would have taken too much effort to deal with them earlier. We spawned 2 massive Vermintide armies from underneath their settlements and destroyed them once and for all. With only a handful of turns left, it was time to close out our final ally. We stole Bilbali from Clan Scryer, making them weak enough to confederate. Finally, all of the Skaven Lords were united under a single banner, like the Apostles, but if they were all Judas instead. Now, I know he brought a few armies with him, but negative 200,000 in upkeep seems a bit steep. Oh, that's right, the last phase of conquest was to betray another ally. We spawned a dozen Vermintide armies in his land and wiped him off the map. All that was left to do was to clean up the stragglers in the next few turns. And thanks to another Warhammer god, I remembered to snag this settlement in the middle of the ocean at the last second. And by turn 99, we had taken the final settlement. All 569 to be exact. Now you might think this was what the Horned Rat had envisioned. All settlements owned by rats. All rat lords living in peaceful harmony, but you'd be mistaken. The rats couldn't even manage to finish their commandments, let alone live peacefully amongst each other. No, this was the beginning of the Great Games. Rat-on-rat violence was the only way forward.
You